This is Backstage Sonoma, your all-access pass to the local music scene.
Coming to you from beautiful downtown Santa Rosa, this is the Backstage Sonoma podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Welcome back to another episode of Backstage Sonoma. I'm Steve Roby. Today we are thrilled to welcome a true American roots rock legend, Jeffrey Halford. Jeffrey hails from San Francisco, and since releasing his self-titled debut album in 1991, he's been a driving force in the roots rock scene. With influences ranging from blues to folk, his music captures the essence of Americana. Jeffrey will join me shortly to talk about his music and an upcoming show with the Healers at Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley. But first, let's listen to a sample of his music. This is Rhythm of the Rails.
We took the train out of Switzerland, rode into France, turned up the music, started to dance. We had our own sleeper car, our own private bar. Said she liked the way that I played the guitar. Past San Sebastian down to Madrid. You can guess the rest, well I'll tell you what she did. Started with flamenco, then we wound up on the floor. Train conductor was pounding on the door. She was down, she was hollering for more. You know she said she liked the rhythm of the rail. 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 Well, she rocked me on the train. Well, we were drinking champagne, bridging tunnels in the rain. We were heading down to Spain. Oh yeah, she rocked me on the train. Oh yeah, she rocked me.
That was Rhythm of the Rails by Jeffrey Halford, and he joins me now. Welcome to the show, Jeffrey.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. So glad you could be here. Let's dive right in. Your music has roots in Americana, but you've drawn inspiration from various genres and from artists like Curtis Mayfield and Howlin Wolf. Do they still influence your songwriting, or are there other inspirations?
I think I like to listen to Curtis more than he's influenced me. I think his stance politically and for the better of the human race is how Curtis has influenced me. He's got a lot of jazz influences, but the Wolf is just straight soul.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got such feel, but I'm just a middle-class kid. I don't know if I can achieve those. But you shoot for the stars. You
Absolutely.
look to the best people.
Absolutely.
But a lot of stuff there's so much I like. I mean, if it's good, that's where I'm at. The style of music, I just look for good music. The Americana title we use, it's too broad. I mean, they call bluegrass Americana. They call straight country Americana.
Sure.
It's too wide a net, I think. We call our music rock and roll, country, soul with some that's bluesy. I think influentially, I've started really enjoying R&B, old soul, Joe Tex, just some of that 60s stuff. I love it. And it's got such a feel on it. But that's nothing new.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it started when I saw Lyle Lovett and Al Green together.
Wow.
They did a song where I was like, God, the country and the soul blends together so well. So I've tried to do a little of that. And I love old rock and roll, Eddie Cochran and old Elvis. And then I love good singer-songwriter stuff because I grew up in the 70s. It was a long answer. I apologize.
No, that's perfect. It really tells our listeners a lot. I'm curious to what you're currently listening to now.
A lot of the stuff I've been listening to has been what my son's been listening. I have a son who's a musician also. He turns me on to some really good stuff. He turned me on to this kid named Anderson .Paak, and he's playing at the Hollywood Bowl with a string section coming up. And he's really good. He kind of reminds me of modern day young Sly Stone or something. And that new Dylan record that came out, that double record, that's an amazing record. So I've listened to that till the wheels fall off. And, I still listen to Jerry Jeff Walker. I love him. And of course, I always listen to the Stones.
It's a shame that some of these artists you just mentioned don't get the proper airplay anymore on FM radio.
I'm a big fan of KPIG radio, and they've been supportive of me as well as KRSH. Those stations play all that stuff, I think. Or they used to.
Community radio stations do pretty well, but I'm a fan of the old San Francisco FM stations like KSAN. But anyway, we digress here. Let me get back on track here. You had the chance to perform with legends like Taj Mahal, Los Lobos, Greg Allman. What have you learned from these experiences, and how have they shaped your music, would you say?
You're just surrounded by great songwriting and great playing. I mean, there it is right there.
Yeah.
Just, those guys are extraordinary, and if I can get a piece of any of that, then I'll take it.
Absolutely.
I got to play with those guys. I opened, some of them were festivals, and some of them were openers. You'd play with your heroes. Taj's show was amazing. He's just so loose. That's what I learned from him. And Los Lobos, I spent a long time and growing up in LA. Talk about a stew of great music, because they're doing like 60s R&B, and then they're going to straight ranchero style songs, and amazing band.
They are truly amazing. You mentioned songwriting just a few seconds ago. Can you walk us through your songwriting process? Do you start with lyrics or melody, or does it all come together differently?
There isn't a method on how it comes together. I just get in the car and you start driving, and I read about this, and I think one part of your brain frees up. So you start driving. So I end up, a lot of it I can write. If I'm driving, I get really inspired, and I'll pull over and I've got my phone microphone out, and I'm writing, and I'm texting, or it's not texting, but talk recording. I've done that where I just get these lyrics down, and sometimes I'll have a groove that I hear in my head. So I'll note the groove, lay down the lyrics on the recording on the phone.
Wow.
And then I'll take it back to the guitar and see what I can work out. But a lot of times I have an idea of what I want to play, but it never turns out. That's kind of the great part of songwriting, is what you start with and what you end up with is totally different, which makes it creative. And I'm a riff-based oriented writer also. So if I've got a killer riff, like if I'm noodling around with the guitar and I come up with something I think is substantial, then I'll try to base a song around it. Like Fogerty, you look at Creedence. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up riding, maybe you too, we're riding our bicycles around the neighborhoods, hearing like Born on the Bayou, which is that riff in that song is just ridiculous.
I know what you mean. I heard that the other day, and I was like hearing different instruments than I'd ever heard before. I think there's like some congas going on in there, and I was like, wow, that's a really good.
Oh yeah, you're getting inside it. You just read they're still the most popular band in the United States, like the most played.
Let's get back to your music and your current release, Soul Crusade. We're going to play the song called Sinner Man. What can you tell our listeners about this song?
That was co-written with a friend of mine, Don Zimmer. It's kind of an abstract piece about kind of the muse that drives you to write. That's what that one was about.
Okay, let's listen to it now. This is Sinner Man by Jeffrey Halford, and you're listening to Backstage Sonoma.
Cotton from the wood was blowing all around. You know, the wind was howling on the road out of town. With thoughts about the consequences, all the retribution percentages of dollars, my troublesome one's constitution. Well, maybe he'd feel better just stay with the plan and find the gifted spirit of the sinner man. Oh, maybe he'd feel better just stay with the plan and find the gifted spirit of the sinner man. You know, I'd copied some words down from a book that I'd read, and I put them to music. I had a song in my head. You know, and many years later it was played back to me, and time had adjusted what I was willing to see. But I believe those words were mine for a short span. I had the gifted spirit of the sinner man. I believe those words were mine for a short span. I had the gifted spirit of the sinner man. There's no linear lines, sense of time. I just wait until the church bell chimes are old and rusted, gray and white. You're someone I don't recognize. These minutes to hours and it's turned to days. Disappeared, then it finally came. But I believe those words were mine for a short span. I had the gifted spirit of the sinner man. I believe those words were mine for a short span. I had the gifted spirit of the sinner man.
And we're back with our guest, Bay Area musician Jeffrey Halford. Jeffrey, you've been in the music industry for over 3 decades. What an accomplishment. How would you say your music has evolved, and what has stayed constant in your work?
Good question, by the way. It started out simple. I was playing a lot of surf music, simple blues. I was exploring some of these musical genres that I loved, rockabilly, Ray Charles.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started writing, and I found that I had a little knack for making up songs. I was imitating in my own way, but although imitating, it doesn't turn out the same as exact. It comes into how I interpret it. But then as the time went by, of course, through hard practice and playing gig after gig, it starts to evolve and it starts to turn into your own style. I think I started really developing my own style, which you can still hear hints of the things we just talked about.
Sure.
I think the best way to hear how my music has evolved is let's listen to it as opposed to me describing. I think lyrically it's evolved to better stories. But how do you define better? I mean, because what you like is what you like. So it's just a hard thing to put your finger on.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, as you get older, you get wiser, you get better at your playing, and I'm open to everything. Whereas maybe when I was younger, I wasn't as open. I was very like, no, I just want to do this. And now I'm like, no, I want to do anything that makes this good, whatever it takes.
Let's talk about your current album, Soul Crusade. What can you share about the making of this album?
We released a few singles on the record. That's how it started. I think the first one was The Devil, that was co-written with Don Zimmer. He kind of gave me the idea, and then I went to the studio and kind of made it happen. It was just an angry song about the orange guy. And can I say turd?
Oh, you can say turd. You can say anything you want.
That was kind of just an angered, expressed piece there. And then we just started writing, and that's it. So it's just more a collection of songs.
Yeah.
And the soul part means just try to get to the soul of the music, not necessarily soul music. That was where that was at. Although it does have some really nice R&B feels. It's a mixture of like rock and roll, little R&B, and it's got some folk, Sinnerman's on it. But there's some really nice tracks on that CD. And my cohort in music, Adam Rossi, I started working stuff out with him, and he was really bringing a lot to the music with his vocals and keyboards. And he really brought a lot and then he mixed it too. Really turned into quite a nice piece of work.
It certainly
I think
did. Yeah. I'm going to play another track. This one's called Walk to the River. What can you tell our listeners about this one?
This was a cry for people acceptance and just my anger against the way they were treating the people at the border. It was happening all over the world, but this one kind of focuses in on our border where it was happening down there. At one point they were separating families, and that just angered me, man. I think, the one thing the American people are capable of is humane treatment of people. We have the money, we have the resources. we can guide people and take care of people if we want to. So that's what that song. And then the album, what was great about this album is there was a lot of passionate pieces. And there's another one called Picture in My Mind, where it was a song about a woman who had lost her father in Vietnam. So it was a meaningful record, but there was a lot of material there that was lighter too. I try to mix it up. I'll go heavy, I'll go light, etc. When I went on my tour to Europe, thanks to the master Jan Janssen, the album went to #1 on the Euro Americana charts over there.
Well, let's listen to the track right now. This is called Walk to the River. This is Jeffrey Halford here on Backstage Sonoma.
I'm gonna walk to the river. 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 My family close at hand. We'll march like ants across the sand. We're not criminals, we're refugees, and we're heading down to the land of the free. I'm gonna walk to the river. I'm gonna walk to the river. I'm gonna walk to the river. Down to the water. Oh, the water was high. He held on tightly to my hand. We jumped into the Rio Grande. In the water, I think somebody drowned. Well, maybe it's a blessing not to realize your dreams, 'cause they're locking kids in cages, and at night you hear the screams. America has no place for you, there's nothing left to sell. It's the secret of the river, and the river never tells. I'm gonna walk to the river. I'm gonna walk to the river. I'm gonna walk to the river. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna walk to the river. I'm gonna walk to the river.
And we're back. My guest today is musician Jeffrey Halford. Jeffrey, let's talk about your group, The Healers. Who's in the band and how did the formation come together?
I saw Adam Rossi at a club called Slim's in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just beating up that organ and he had great stage presence. So I asked him to come and be in the group and he was kind enough to suffice, right? But he plays with a lot of people around the Bay Area. He produced a band called Loose. So he's like a super talented cat and good person. So we started working together and we started out with Bill Macbeth, who's on some of Soul Crusade. He's an old East Bay musician and he's great. And then we did a little bit with him and we started playing with Mike Anderson, who's currently in the group. He plays with Maurice, Tawny, and other people. So right now it's a trio. I have these great musicians that pop in and out. It's a plethora of really good musicians around the Bay Area. Paul O'Gean has played with me on bass. Kevin White, who's going to play with me this weekend, he was in Chuck Prophet's band. These guys are awesome. And then there's another guy in San Francisco that sits in and plays on the records. He's a good steel player and guitar songer, blah, blah, blah. His name is Tom Heyman, and he plays with me a lot. And Mark Caron guested on the record.
Yeah.
Mark Caron?
He was a guest on the show.
He played on some of the record. So these guys are all my musical people, but Mike Anderson and Adam Rossi are the main cats that make it happen.
We have such a great talent pool here in the Bay Area. It's a wonderful place to be.
Absolutely, man.
What do you like most about performing here in the Bay Area? And how do you prepare for a show?
We just stay tight, rehearse.
Mm-hmm.
You just play a lot. I mean, I don't rehearse. I don't prepare for one show. You just kind of it's like a baseball player. You're just like catching grounders. I was shortstop a long time ago, but you just got to keep your chops up.
Yeah.
And I'm always trying new stuff. Some artists play the same stuff a lot. I'm always switching it up, trying new songs. Luckily, I'm still able to just pump out new songs. That's one of the things that fuels me is just keeping the art fresh. We do kind of play it the same, but we try to change it up.
What can fans look forward to at your upcoming show at the Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley?
Come on out. My daughter's going to open up, which is going to be wonderful. She's got like a soul thing going on that's really cool. She can sing. I don't know what she's going to do, but it'll be good. I'm going to come out and just play my hits. And no, we're going to do a bunch of stuff.
Cool.
What can they expect? They can expect a killer show of rock and roll, country, soul with some ballads and high energy stuff. It'll be something to see. Come on out.
Sounds good to me. Do you want to mention your daughter's name and what kind of music she plays?
Her name is Hannah Halford, and she plays, I guess, neo soul is what you'd call it.
Yeah.
I mean, she was playing some old Patti LaBelle stuff, and then she does a Curtis Mayfield song that's knockout. The Makings of You, which is one of my favorite all-time songs. I think it's in my top 10. She's something. And then what's the funnest part is she's going to get up there with me and sing some backup vocal. So you get to see that family thing on stage, which is going to be.
How fun.
Yeah, and then she's coming to Europe with me for a few dates, and I'm leaving to Europe. It's mid-October. I'll be gone for a month, touring the Benelux, which is Belgium, Holland, Germany, and some France.
That should be fun, yeah. Let me remind our listeners that Jeffrey Halford and the Healers, along with Jeffrey's daughter, will perform on Thursday, September 19th at the Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley. Doors open at 7 and showtime is at 8 p.m. You can pick up tickets at sweetwatermusichall.com and be sure to stop by Jeffrey's website to pick up his music and see his schedule. You can go to jeffreyhalford.com. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time today. It was fun. It was a blast. Love talking about your music.
Steve, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Backstage Sonoma will be right back after this quick break.
Would you like to be a guest on Backstage Sonoma? It's easy. Drop the host an email at backstagesonoma@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Thanks for listening to the Backstage Sonoma podcast. Join us next time for more great interviews and music from local and touring musicians. You can find us on the web at backstagesonoma.com.